This is... Oh my.
Let's start off by talking about Haibane's family. Haibane Renmei was created by the same great mind that brought us Serial Experiments Lain, a show that has a story and plotline that is filled to the brim with so much mind trickery that is 1,000 times more complicated than a 12-sided Rubik's Cube. But you'll be thankful to hear that Haibane is almost its exact opposite, and definitely a lot more simplistic, even if it takes some of the more darker themes and uses them later on. The show takes place in and around a town which whereabouts on the world map are unknown, starring beings known as Haibane. Now, what's a Haibane? Well, your guess is as good as mine. They never give a proper explanation as to what the Haibane exactly are or where they came from. All we know is that they are born from cocoons at various ages, from a child to a full-grown adult, who then grow wings and are given halos, but beyond that, they seem to live life almost as normal. The story itself follows newborn Haibane Raka as she begins to learn about her new self and her surroundings, as well as showing her reactions to what is going on around her. The plot actually takes a little while to get going, and this might be a problem with some people. The first 6 episodes basically describe the world and the people, giving a closer look, but not too close of a look, at the lives of the other Haibane that Raka lives with, and because of these episodes, some people might lose interest. It only really starts to get good from episode 6 and onwards, after a big major plot spoiler, following which, the happy-go-lucky atmosphere that we are first introduced to gets trodden over by a new depressing part of the storyline, where we learn about the Haibane Reki's past, how both Reki and Raka are bound by sin to the world that they are now living in, and how they eventually seek redemption from both others and themselves. So as you can probably guess, Haibane has a very religious part to it, but please don't get me wrong, this isn't a religious show, but when you start talking about angels and redemption, religion is definitely a topic that's going to pop out at you. But the thing about it is that it doesn't shove religion down your throat, nor does it throw symbolism at you every time it gets the chance. Every bit of symbolism and religious themes that it has, it keeps in moderation as to help proceed with the story without becoming a dominance or a hindrance. They don't go about saying God is good and you must worship him. In fact, they don't even talk about God much, and even then they mention a God, but not in the tone that a religious person would. It's more like, if there is a God. So unless you're extremely gung-ho about your religion, there should be no problem in that respect for you to watch this, regardless if you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or what have you. The animation of the show is a mixed bag, depending on which scene you're watching. The designs can make a 180 from simple to extremely detailed faster than you can say production IG, but this allowed the animators to focus more on the scenes that needed more detailed drawing rather than those that didn't. But even when the designs are simple, it doesn't make them bad. In fact, it adds to the whole picture, making those particular scenes much more relaxed before getting to the more emotionally heavy ones. And then there's the music. I can't describe Haibane's music the same way I would another anime, mainly because the only real themes are the opening and ending. 95% of its music is in the background, adding to the story and propelling it forward. But each track is a beautiful rendition in its own right, from bringing up your spirits by running through a field with a string ensemble, to slowing down and letting the tears flow with a piano solo. Suffice it to say, Haibane Renmei's soundtrack ranks up there with Bebop as one of my favorites of all time. Not only because all the songs are good, but because not a single track is out of place. Sure, there's nothing epic about the soundtrack, but it holds its merits in a different sense. And since we're on the topic of audio, let's talk about a subject that a lot of people like to hear about. Dub versus sub. Now, with most anime I buy on DVD nowadays, I do what I usually do, and I watch the dub having usually already seen the sub. And let me say this about Haibane Renmei. After the first episode, I had to pinch myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. The English dub is an absolute miracle, in more ways than one. With the show's Japanese dub, most of the characters aside from Reki and Raka ended up sounding more like they had an emotionless one-size-fits-all type of acting, but the dub delivers far better, which is surprising considering there's no big name in the voice cast. There's no Steve Blum, no Crispin Freeman, Mona Marshall, etc. No one there that screams this dub will be a masterpiece, which is an occurrence that has almost never happened before, and even then, not to this degree. Even the minor characters that have barely any screen time have superb acting behind them.
I'm so glad that you recovered. My name is Kutamori.
A feat that rarely ever happens these days. If I was to put Haibane somewhere on the peak, it would definitely be near the top, standing on the shoulders of others desperately trying to reach the heavens that are just out of reach because it is too short. Yes, for what few episodes it has, Haibane is exceedingly good, but there is so much more time that could have been spent on it. Most of the secondary characters get barely any screen time, so we're unable to learn more about them besides their basic personalities. The show also leaves several questions unanswered. What's beyond the wall that surrounds the town? Is it Earth, or is the town itself located in some kind of purgatory? What decides who becomes a Haibane, and for that matter, what are the Haibane really? These are all questions left unanswered that could very well have been answered had the show been longer, but I digress. If you ask for perfection, you're never gonna get it, but Haibane Renmei comes pretty darn close to it, and with that in mind, I happily place Haibane back on my shelf with a sliver of hope that one day there will be a sequel that will blow my mind even more than the first. And if you need more of a reason yourself to watch this show, go check out some AMVs. It's how I came into contact with the show, and it might be what makes you go out and try and get it, until of course you realize that Haibane was licensed by Genon and is currently out of print since the great Genon crash of 07, and that no one has gotten around to picking it back up, namely Funimation. So I suggest that everyone, right now, open up your email and tell Funny that we want this show back in print, alright? Who's with me? Guys? Anyone? Ah, crap.